Hello, and welcome to another episode of Millionaires Are Made, the show where we believe you can become a millionaire in all six aspects of health. That's right, it's not just about having a big old bank account, but it's about your entire life. Every week, we share tips to improve your physical, your mental, your social, spiritual, financial, and today's episode, your intellectual health. Our goal today is to come up with three awesome tips from three awesome guests. I lied. We're doing something different. We got four guests today, and we're going to be focusing on the intellectual health and the topic of song lyrics. How to improve your intellectual health with song lyrics. If you've never seen Millionaires Are Made, this is the show built on the fundamental belief that every person you meet knows something you don't, and there's something to be learned from everyone in this big, beautiful world. In the spirit of authenticity, to remove as much bias as possible, I don't talk, we don't talk about tips or advice before the show starts. So you're going to learn real, authentic advice from our guests, from their own personal life journeys. It's going to be awesome. We have some sweet guests. We have a lot of live performers and songwriters. So we're going to learn a lot about intellectual health and song lyrics. Audience, this is an interactive show. Please feel free to comment, ask questions. We will ask them live. We will make our guests answer them live as well. Real quick, for our favorite followers, I want to do a quick shout out on Facebook. Candy Richardson, thank you for following us. You are awesome. Instagram, Three's a Crowd. TikTok, Prosilience Coach. Awesome coach there. Thanks for following us. And on YouTube, Christian Sloan. Make sure you follow us if you want to get shouted out on the next episode. Guests, we know that you have something to share. We're always looking for new guests. We'd love to have your expertise. Please sign up at the link being dropped right now if you want to be a guest on our show. We'd love to have you on, share a little piece of advice, make the world a better place, help the world grow. And if you're going through life right now and you got something holding you back, maybe you're struggling, maybe spiritually you're lost, maybe financially you're a little broke, and you need some help with the topic, please shoot it to us. We love new topic ideas. We will take them. We will go find three awesome guests and give you three tips on how to get through that. It's amazing how we can do things like that, and we can all work together to grow. We also offer a free growth session with me. I spend all of my life learning and would love to share that with you. That link's being dropped right now. If you want a one-on-one session with me, I love to talk, help out, see if I can help you a little bit. And without further ado, if you love our show, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, send stars, whatever it is on whatever medium, so we can keep doing this show and sharing advice with everyone in this world. And to keep the show going, we also have some sponsors. This show is sponsored by, first off, we have Island Trail Adventures by Golly Pride. It offers guided hikes through scenic Caribbean trails. If you're ever in the Caribbean and you want to go see some beautiful views, hit them up. Their link's being dropped right now. They blend stunning landscapes, rich history, and nature for an unforgettable journey. We're also sponsored by Ross Alexander, who is a coach and a former athlete that inspires others through public speaking, sharing strategies for coping, achieving goals, and finding your purpose in life. Another sponsor is Rachel Greenwell, who helps people own their worth, power, and potential, aligning your spiritual purpose to make a positive impact in the world. Amazing. Love Rachel so much. And our last sponsor for this episode is Joshua Perry, who is a resilient leader, inspiring others to overcome challenges with determination, guiding them to reach their full potential and achieve greatness. Connect with Josh below. And now that we have all of our sponsors done, it's time to bring out our first guest. Yes, Christine, we have four of them today. It's going to be wild. Get excited. We will start with Amber is coming out to teach us about intellectual health and song lyrics. Amber, who are you?
Hey everyone, I'm Amber Trusick. I'm a derivatives trader, business owner, entrepreneur, and author. I'm the owner of Stratford Consulting, a finance and accounting consulting firm helping startups and then turnaround companies. Fitter, Smarter, Richer, which is a self-improvement company that teaches you how to unlock your greatest potential. And Whoopsie Hair Ties, a spin on ordinary hair ties designed to inspire women and girls around the world.
I love it, Amber. All right, well, let's get to the nitty gritty right off the bat. If I
All right.
wanted to improve my intellectual health with song lyrics, what tiny piece of advice would you give me?
I'm going contrarian here. I think you should listen to classical music because it's better for your cognitive function.
Ooh.
It improves focus and concentration, helps with memory, and helps reduce stress, and also helps you create creativity.
Classical music. All right. So there is some lyrics in classical music, correct?
Yes,
Occasionally. All right.
occasionally.
Occasionally. Who's your favorite classical artist?
Oh my goodness. Well, you have to go with like the basics, right?
Okay.
I go on YouTube, so I'm really terrible with artist names. I go on YouTube and type in studying music, classical music. So Mozart always pops up. Um, you can go with that, but I just go along with what's on YouTube and what that gives me.
All right. All right. So you're a YouTube listener. Interesting.
I am. I'm terrible with actually artist names. I can remember people's names just fine, but artists and songs, for some
As
reason,
soon as they
that
start
just
playing music, it's out the window.
it's out the window.
That's awesome. All right, Amber, where in your life journey did you learn this information? How did this advice
Yeah.
come to you?
So I'm really big on understanding who I am as a person because it ultimately helps me be a better business owner, trader, and just person. And I noticed that when I listened to just what was on the radio, it actually had a negative effect towards like my trades, my health, my personal just awareness. And I wondered if there was something actually linked to that. So when I did an experiment, and I'm big on journaling and understanding what makes me tick. When I did that, I actually noticed that I had less productivity, less efficiency, less clarity. I was more stressed when I was listening to like rap music or just country music. And when I started to switch my routines and started listening to classical 50s and 60s music, I actually noticed that one, I was happier. Two, I had better clarity, focus, concentration, but also I felt like just better. I don't know what it was about it, but if I stopped doing that, listening to the radio, in the morning and stuff like that and changed to podcasts or classical music. And I noticed ultimately a huge impact in my overall well being because of it.
Interesting. Did you ever like track it or monetize it or figure out exactly like how did you pinpoint it was the music?
Yeah, emotionally. So, like, I'm really big on keeping like consistency within my routines and diet and just overall, just kind of like my day to day. And then just changing the music aspect, kind of keeping that as like the controllable. I just noticed a dramatic difference. And then I would just like play around with it. Like, oh, instead of like focusing on it, I'm just going to switch on to like, oh, I just want to listen to like rap music or Rihanna. Immediately after doing that, figured it out. Like, it's the music that's actually making me feel like this, which I thought was very interesting. You got to
Wild.
try it. I mean, it's a game changer. I did it for like, I think 6 months, and then I just habit and routines, just instead of turning on that music, switch to something else. And then I was in the car with like one of my friends and we were going somewhere, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this music makes me feel like crap.
Yeah, so I definitely had a I guess I'm gonna call it a phase. I don't know the last time I've listened to classical music, but I definitely for a while during homework or cleaning the house were two big times I would do it.
Yeah,
But
try like even 50s like music. Like I have like the golden oldies rock on in my car.
oh
So
man,
stupid, but like when I'm grocery shopping or something, like it just boosts your mood. So I'm telling you something about it. Get a little Elvis Presley in there.
all right, well that's a good tip. I'm gonna have to start going back to some classical. Awesome, Amber. We're gonna move on to Samir.
Cool.
Thank you so much, and we will bring you out in the round robin. Our next guest was playing guitar earlier. We'll find out if he still got it. What's up, Samir?
Hey, Austin, man. Great to be on.
Samir, tell me who you are.
So I'm Samir Dasani. I'm a health coach. I am also an anthropologist. I'm about to have a PhD in anthropology, God willing, if the assessors agree with that. But really, at heart, I'm an activist. I've been sort of working on social and political issues for more than 20 years now, and that's really where my music also falls into that category. Um, so I used to be a musician. I have back in college, I was playing in bands in Montreal. We cut a record. We played a couple shows. Then we had a fight. No longer played together. That's how it goes.
That's how it goes, right?
And
That's how it goes. Man, all right. Well, Samir, tell me this: if I wanted to improve my intellectual health with song lyrics, what piece of advice would you give me?
Yeah, I mean, I think intelligence is a conversation. You know, some of us, and myself included, like when I'm writing my PhD, it's very much a conversation with myself. But I think to really learn, you have to be in conversation with others, right? And most of us tend to think in prose, especially me. I'm a writer. I do have a book out, The Health Dialectic, if people want to check it out. But if you can learn to communicate through poetry, through lyrics, you stand out in the crowd. And I wanted to sort of play a couple of songs that might express that, and not the full songs, but just a few lyrics, right? So some things that everybody knows, right? So we can say, if you're trying to convey the idea of this, you know, there's countries in the world that have been persecuted, there's regions of the world that have really been up against it for a long time. And if you could write that down, you can say, geez, I hope my people can get over their persecution. Or you could say, how long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside? Right? That one line has such power, right? That whole song is extremely powerful Bob Marley song that everyone recognizes. But just that line, you know, to think about that and to have, you know, whoever it may be, teenage boys and girls all over the world singing that, super
Yeah.
powerful stuff and super educational, right? Or you can tell a story, right? You could tell a story like this. You could say, I went out on a casino, I was trailed by 20 hounds. Didn't get to sleep at night till the morning came around. Right? So that's Jerry Garcia. That's the Grateful Dead. That's a song called "Friend of the Devil," which tells a beautiful. I mean, you know, there's words in there that probably some people will find a little bit, you know, like sexist and misogynist, and probably they are. But it tells a story, right? It tells a story of a man on the run from his own devils, whatever they may be, right? Super powerful stuff. And it's, you know, you could write that story out. It would take you 20 pages to write that story, or you could write it in a song. And it's so much more powerful if you take that time and write your lyrics, write your own story in a poetic way, in a lyrical kind of way. Put it to music if you can, turn them into song lyrics. And it, you know, it could also be something that really defines a moment, right? So there's a song by The Clash that I don't know that most people know. Most people know London Calling, like that's the Clash song people know. You familiar with that one? Sort of. You don't know British punk?
I know the Clash. I know the Clash.
Yeah, yeah. But there's a more, for me, there's a better Clash song, which is called The Guns of Brixton, right? It has a line calling, you can crush us, you can bruise us, but you have to answer to all the guns of Brixton, right? That took a moment in time, these sort of Brixton race riots of the 1980s, and encapsulated them in such a way that if I play that song now to someone who was in Brixton, they can remember like everything comes back like that. Like you're
Yeah, yeah.
capturing a moment with a line. I mean, it's an amazing thing to do. And then I think you can also have, you know, your history lessons. I think when we talk about lyricists, it's hard. I got the guitar and I got an acoustic guitar, even though it's not my first instrument. But it's hard to think about the acoustic guitar and lyrics without thinking about Bob Dylan, right? And so he has a song that people may not know, but I encourage people to check it out, which is goes like this. Or I'll just play a verse, right? The history books tell it so. The cavalry's charged, the Indians fell. The cavalry's charged, the Indians died. Our country was young and had God on its side. Right? So it's a political commentary. It's going to go on. There's another verse about World War II and the Holocaust and so on. It's really telling the story of war, and referring to the way you learned it most of us learned it in school, with a kind of social commentary along with that. So again, you could write those things out. You could write it into a book like that. That's the ideas in that song probably could be like a 200-page book, but to tell it in a 5-minute song, I mean, that's super impressive, right?
I think it makes more of an impact too, having good lines that are. I mean, there's sometimes I hear a song and I'll just be like, "Holy shit, that line hit me," you know, and it stays. If I read it in a book, maybe there's a couple good lines, but I feel like if I remember, like words that are written well, it almost always comes from a song.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's also, you know, this is why I still use music. So I don't really write songs in the way I did, but my wife writes lyrics in Hindi, especially. And we make these sort of political commentary videos in Hindi. We have another channel. So you guys know my health coaching work. There's a YouTube channel called Peace Vigil. You can check it out, where we write songs in English, but mostly in Hindi, sometimes in random languages like Italian and stuff. Political commentary that's trying to just condense things down a little bit. And sort of, again, you have these really complicated ideas. We're living in a really turbulent time. There's, climate change and there's war and all this kind of stuff. Just take a moment, breathe, and try and express your emotions, your understanding of the world through these lyrics. And I think it's not just good for the intellectual health, it's good for the emotional health. It's good therapy.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. All right, Samir, we're going to have to move on to our next guest. Thank you so much. And awesome that you had your guitar ready to go. Thank you for playing that for us. Next up, we have Mandy. Mandy, who are you?
Hi, I'm Mandy. I'm an artist, and I also host the Soulbound Studios podcast. And that podcast is all about exploring creativity and personal growth and the courage that it takes to follow your passions. So, I'm also a certified therapeutic art life coach, and I help people use creativity as a tool for healing and self expression. So, through my podcast and coaching, we encourage people and creatives to use their creativity to find like a unique voice and live a life that's more fueled with passion and purpose.
A life more fueled with passion and purpose. I can get behind that. All right, Mandy, tell me this. If I wanted to improve my intellectual health with song lyrics, what tiny piece of advice would you give me?
Well, I think song lyrics are an incredible gateway into creative living because they blend language and emotion. So that can inspire a deeper intellectual growth. And so I would say my advice would be to approach song lyrics like a form of a journal prompt. So if you find a lyric that hits you, take it home with you, put it in your journal, and like dig into like there's a stinking fly here, but dig into why the the lyrics resonate with you so much, because then you can reflect on them and use them to set goals, spark creative ideas, or kind of explore why those hit you so hard. That could be a trigger from the past. It could be something that you want to use to grow forward. It helps you take apart what's going on in your mind and break it down.
Awesome. Okay. You use those as journal entries. I like it. All right, Mandy, where on your life journey did you learn this advice?
I would say probably this year has been a big turning point for me. I left a toxic job that had drained all of my creativity and like it drained me creatively and mentally. And so I decided to lean into entrepreneurship. And I was like, I'm no longer working for any like toxic jobs anymore. And so I've always known the power of creativity, but it was this transition that helped me realize that music and song lyrics can help me with my goals and help me like push through certain uncertainties. And I actually created a Spotify playlist. It's called Goal Getter. And every time I hear a song that's like encouraging you to push forward through your goals, I put it into that playlist. I can share that with you guys. Yeah, I'll share it with you guys. It's a really good one. And so I've used that as like kind of as I'm driving around or getting ready in the morning or cleaning my house, I listen to goal-oriented music. So that way I'm continually working towards something and it motivates me. I listened to it right before we got onto this podcast this morning.
Oh, I like it. All right. Awesome. Well, Mandy, we're going to move on to our next guest. We'll bring you back out for the round robin. Our last guest today, our fourth guest, is Rachel. Excited to hear from her. Rachel, can you tell me who you are?
Yeah, I'm basically overall just a full-time musician, but I kind of do everything. So I've been a songwriter. I've worked with other artists, produced, written, directed, all sorts of things for artists all over the world. I have my own projects. I have a project called Moon Honey and Darling Revival. I perform a lot. I've also been a worship director for about 20 years. So I kind of do all things music.
All things music.
Yes.
Very cool. All right. Well, Rachel, I have a question for you. If I wanted to improve my intellectual health with song lyrics, what small piece of advice would you give me?
Okay. I couldn't narrow it down. I have two pieces of advice. I'll keep them quick.
Man.
The first, I couldn't do it because they're very different. I actually kind of agree with some of the statements made previously too, so I'll tie it in. But the first is remember that you become what you consume. And this applies to everything in life, but especially to music, because music is inherently manipulative, and that can be used for good and for bad. And so be very, very careful what you're constantly consuming, because you will become that thing. The second piece of advice is consider messing around or experimenting with, I would say, with music that's created to put your brain in a particular state. So I've been creating things now for a little while that are music pieces along with binaural beats, tones, and frequencies that will help your brain actually be in a particular state. So whether you want more creativity, more focus, whether you need to relax, get rid of anxiety, all those things can be helped with particular frequencies and tones and beats, which I think is so incredible. But that's how powerful music is. So just remember what you're consuming.
Remember what you're consuming. You are what you consume,
You
even
are,
music-wise.
especially music-wise. So I think that's been stated, but one thing I've learned in using music in a religious sense, which is kind of, in my opinion, the most widely used, actually, if you look at human history, music has been used in religious settings a lot. And one of the reasons is it softens you up to whatever the idea is coming through it. So when you listen to melody with a lyric, it will soften you to the idea of that lyric. And so it just becomes incredibly potent and powerful. And it can make you hopeful, it can bring you joy, or it can really put you in a state of anxiety or anger, frustration. I mean, think of how quickly music can change a space or a room. Like everyone's in a bad mood, and then, like was previously discussed, they put on something from the 1950s that's bouncy and joyful, and the whole vibe of the room shifts, right? That's and it does it so quickly. We can't do that with just our words, but when you put music to
Yeah.
words, it can do that. So it's just such a powerful form, and it's something we are consuming, and I think mindlessly consuming far too often.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that. All right, Rachel, we're going to move on to our panel. We're going to bring everyone else out and start taking some questions from the audience and discussing everyone's tips. We can start off with Amber. Can you quickly refresh what your tip was for us?
Yeah, I went contrarian. I said classical music actually helps your cognitive health by enhancing your brain function, improve focus, creativity, and reduce stress.
All right, Samir, what are your thoughts on that tip?
I mean, I'm not gonna disagree with anyone. Music is music. I love it. It's all good. My tip
It's
was
all
different. My tip was my tip is about if you want to enhance your intellectual sort of life, take the ideas that you're thinking in prose and write them in poetry and put some music next to it. See what happens. See what that does to you.
What happens if you're not musically inclined? Can you still use song lyrics to improve your intellectual health?
I think so. It's hard for me to imagine because music was such a big part of my life growing up. So you're asking someone for whom music wasn't such a big part of their life. So it's hard for me to. I can imagine lots of things. I can't imagine not having music in my life. So maybe someone else can go with that one. But I don't see why not. I mean, I think we all, even if we're not trained to be a musician, I think we all know what music is. Music is such a primal thing. I'm an anthropologist, and we're trying to figure out. One of the questions that is unanswered is, did we develop speech? Did we develop language in order to communicate with one another, like for hunting and stuff like that? Or did singing come first? Did actual music come first before communication through, prosaic words? And it's quite possible that music may have come first based on what we understand about the earliest languages.
Interesting. That's an interesting thought.
It's certainly the case that there is no culture that has ever been discovered that doesn't include music as a huge part of their life.
Yeah, that's very true. Culture, religion, just about anything has music tied to it somehow. Mandy, what was your tip? Refresh us.
It was using song lyrics as a journal prompt. So if that song lyric
Oh.
hits you, take it home and journal it.
Amber, what are your thoughts on that?
I love that. because it just takes up like the emotion that you're feeling and it allows you to confront that emotion and be okay with it and then expand upon it and just understand how you're feeling, what you can do about it in a good and bad way. It helps you work through stuff. I love that, Mandy.
I think it's a fun way to like dig into more of what your mind is telling you, because sometimes we overthink things or we get too caught up in something. And when you hear a lyric that resonates with you, you can dig into why you feel that way, why that lyric resonates with you so much.
Very true. Rachel, refresh what your 2 tips were. Just give us one of them real quick.
Okay. Remember that you are what you consume.
Mm.
That's mine. So
Does that mean Samir's a punk since she was in a punk rock band?
Well, you know, punks can be great things, by the way. I really like the punk attitude about a lot of things. So listen, that's not a bad thing.
Go deeper into that, Rachel. Why do you like punks? I want to know this.
Because we all need a rebel sometimes. We all need something that's contrarian. We need somebody to like oppose the idea. We always get something better out of having an actual conversation and not being in an echo chamber. So I like rebellious music and attitude.
All right. Thank you, Rachel. Rachel, what was your other tip? Do you remember it?
My other tip was to mess around with just kind of like the classical approach, but there's a lot of music out there that uses binaural beats and particular frequencies and tones that will help your brain to be in a particular state and kind of can assist you. And, you know, one that we all haven't brought up, which surprises me, is music is very attached to memory too. So if you want intellectual prowess, if you need to memorize things, putting them to music is one of the easiest ways to memorize really difficult things. So.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of math equations that go to a nice song. That's for sure. Hi, Amber.
Nerds align.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and that makes me think of like all of the little songs that my kids come home from school with, and they learn their ABCs with the song. They learn, you know what I mean? Like all the little things that we learn as children. I think there's a song about the states, like in alphabetical order, that people have learned. I don't know that one, but I've heard people sing it off and they remember that for years because it's tied to the song.
And the periodic table.
Yes. Yeah. Anything you have to memorize. I used to do this for tests. I would memorize things, putting them to like really silly melodies, like the most simple melodies. And it's very helpful.
Very true. What about, here's something we also haven't talked about with song lyrics. What about the old school, like making a mixtape or a playlist for someone and expressing yourself via song to someone else?
I cannot even begin to tell you how many playlists I make. I have one for my best friend. I have one for my mom. I have one for my kids. I have one for my goals. I have one for my coffee time. I have playlists for just about everything, and that's why I will never cancel my Spotify subscription. I don't endorse it, but I will. If they pay for
Spotify, raise her rate. She'll never cancel. Double it. Ladies, have you ever received a mixtape that made you change your opinion on a guy?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Tell me about it.
I've been on a really good date with someone, and then he played his music, and I was like, oh, I don't know if this will work. Because you are what you consume, right? You are what you consume. And if your music is toxic, it's toxicity. Yeah. So there's times that I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Man, that's good. That's good. So music. Oh wow. Okay. One thing
it gives you insight into their mentalities.
You got to be careful with that. Who knows?
Yeah, you know what I mean? But if like we're listening to goal-oriented music or classical music or even just like upbeat indie music, like we like that too. You know, there's good vibes in music.
Yeah.
That's the turn on.
Speaking of upbeat indie music, Rachel.
What?
How many of your playlists have your own music on them?
Nah, actually, so I I feel like it doesn't seem like it, but I must be somehow really a true artist because I love one-on-one conversations and I love creating and I hate promoting. And I think it's the worst, most horrible thing in the world. And I'm terrible at self-promotion. And I refuse to make anyone listen to anything that I've created unless I want them to give me feedback. Like I share, but I because I have to. I know it doesn't make any sense, but
It makes
no,
perfect
no,
sense.
I there's so much good music. It's really funny that we're talking about this because my husband, one of the very first, he's an incredible artist, incredible guitar player, but a lot of his stuff has been ambient. He creates beautiful ambient music. Um, and he, told me about it and I listened to it. And before we really started dating, actually listening to his music was one of the most attractive things about him. Like it
See?
made me really, I was like, this guy is amazing. I just know it. He's deep and thoughtful. Like I could tell. And to the other side, someone in high school gave me a mixtape and I was really into like Nirvana, and like, 90s rock or whatever. And he like had a lot of Jimmy Buffett on that thing. And it was Cheeseburger in Paradise for like, it felt like forever. And for me as that high school girl, I was like, get this person out of my life. I can't do it. And you can love Jimmy Buffett. Like I appreciate him now, but 17-year-old high school girl was like, no, no. Yeah.
I have kind of the opposite story, which is that so my wife and I are both musicians, but very differently trained. I'm trained originally as a jazz guitarist, and then I sort of got into punk rock, and punk rock took over my life. But she's trained as an Indian classical singer, and so her tastes are very different. And when she first heard my music, she was like, "Yeah, what the fuck is this? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all." But here we are, 25 years later, happily married with kids and so on. So yeah. So I mean, I think when we do have a musical life together, we do make music together in Hindi mostly. But it took a little while to learn each other's language because we're just trained in very different traditions. And that was also fun, like learning how to play music with her and her style of music, which is she's trained really in two ways: Indian classical and Indian folk music in many different Indian languages. So trying to learn how to incorporate this Western instrument into that tradition, it was challenging and it was fun. But we got there in the end. I mean, she's too much of an anti-capitalist to do this, but like if we wanted to make our millions, it would be, because my voice is okay, but her voice is like the most stunning thing you've ever heard.
Oh.
So I mean, so we could sell out like auditoriums and stuff if we wanted to, and if she was a little more interested in making money. But
well, see, you just got to go do that promotion for her. That was a great promo. Now I want to listen to her. You got it down.
Give us a link. Let's hear it. All right, we're going to do one more question from the audience, and then we'll do our daily challenge. Go ahead, Samir.
No, I will drop the link in the private chat here.
All right, perfect. All right, last question is, can analyzing song lyrics improve problem-solving skills? Ooh, very intellectually targeted question.
Well, I think this goes along with the journaling, right? Like if you start analyzing the song lyrics and then you start piecing apart your life and you're like, oh, this could be a solution to this problem that I'm having. And if you go into it with a problem solving, like a solution driven mindset, then absolutely. Nice. It's almost like your own puzzle of sorts that you're trying to piece together, because these song lyrics hit your soul some way for some reason. Yep. And so if you take them apart and you analyze them and you journal in them, you can break them apart and figure out, what was the memory part that we talked about, what's in your past, what's in your future, what are you currently dealing with that made these song lyrics resonate, and how can you puzzle piece solutions together for it?
I will tell you that a lot of my favorite artists come from hearing lyrics that move me. You hear some lyrics and you're like, oh, wow. You're like, damn. Okay. And then you start listening more and more. And I'd say probably almost all my favorite art is because of their lyrics. I'm definitely a lyric-oriented music listener. Oh, thank you, Samir. Amber, do you want to ask your question out loud, and then let's do a daily challenge?
Well, I was just going to ask, because everybody has their own, like, kind of personality, right? And as Rachel was saying, and Samir, and Mandy, that like music is kind of like who you are. I wanted to like know what everybody's favorite album was. That tells us a little bit about who you are.
Okay, what's yours?
The hot dog flavored water and the chocolate starfish by Limp Bizkit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So like we get each other from like these different like, you know, just a picture, right? So like what's your favorite album?
Oh my
Rachel,
goodness.
what's yours?
Oh, that's not a question I can answer. I will, from every genre, I have a favorite album. I love all genres of music. And so there's 90s hip hop that I think is ridiculous. There's this band from Africa called Tenaruin that is like
Pranari one is amazing.
haha, see, so good. Seen them live.
Samir, you
I've
know
seen them
him?
live too.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I've played with them. In fact, I played with
What?
them in DC. I want to say about 15 years ago.
Ugh,
Amazing stuff. And also
What a
Farka,
small world.
Ali Farka Toure's son. I don't know if do you remember him? So Ali Farka Toure, you should check him out. Senegalese blues player, amazing
okay.
guitar. His son is a little bit more like rock and roll blues. But I played with his son and just jamming backstage, not really on stage or anything like that. But it was super fun
That's
because
awesome.
I was doing the French translation. I was the only French translator they could find.
But you don't happen to know anybody in Muse, do you?
No,
Okay.
no, not today.
All right.
God, what
I
a
have a
small
million.
world. I love it.
Tenari one is huge, man. It's not such a small world. There's a huge band.
They are huge, but not a lot
Yeah.
of like mainstream. You wouldn't know them mainstream wise. Like they're
True.
not radio. It's not radio music, but
Yeah.
Samir, what city do you live in?
At the moment, I live in Johannesburg in South Africa.
Okay, in Johannesburg then. Okay.
But I grew up in Washington D.C. and I was very much part of. If you push me on my favorite record, I'd have to, out of loyalty to D.C., say Fugazi, 13 songs. But it might be a Veil, Satiate. You know, I was into sort of that East Coast stuff, and then we took those sounds up to Montreal and we played up there with a lot of some folks from Boston also there. There's a guy, one of my best friends. Was the original bass player in a band called Converge, which is super deep, heavy, rocky, punky stuff, kind of metal. And he and I were collaborators for many years. And now he lives we were in Montreal together. Now he lives in New York. So yeah, playing in a band that sounds a lot like Madness. Do you guys know Madness? Like almost like surf rock.
Okay.
Super fun stuff.
Very cool. Mandy, what's your favorite album?
You know, I couldn't answer this question either. And so I had to go dig through my Spotify liked songs, which has well over 1,300 songs in it. And I still feel like that's not enough. But I kind of picked a couple that I really enjoy. And I'm going to go with artists instead of albums because I really enjoy them. I would say as far as lyrics, Ben Rector is one that's really on my top playlist right now. I really enjoy him. And then as far as vibe, I really like The Strike. They have kind of like a retro vibe, and I really enjoy them.
Right
Very
on.
cool. All right, we got to wrap this up.
It's
time. It's time to end the show. We have one last task. We have to do our daily challenge. We have to come up with a task that will improve our intellectual health with song lyrics that takes less than 5 minutes a day, costs $0, and is available to anyone in the world from Johannesburg to the Virgin Islands. What are your thoughts?
I vote Mandy's idea. Listen to a lyric,
Journaling.
Journal about it.
Listen to and journal about it. Okay.
I agree with that. And then add in like a little bit of what Rachel was saying is you are the music that you consume. You are what you consume. I like that. Just thinks about like what you're listening to, how it's affecting you. I like that approach.
Well, that goes with yours too, Amber, because you did that whole challenge on the music that you listen to and how it affects your mood and all of that. Because that's one I think I already incorporate journaling regularly into my daily life. But if that's not something we do, then I think taking a inventory of the music you listen to and how it affects you, I think is also a good thing you could do. But I do feel like the journal might be a little bit more tangible, like it's something like an action item. I feel like more than a how could you turn your action item from monitoring your music that you listen to? How can you turn that into more of an action item, like something tangible?
So actually, I did journaling. So I'm a big journaler as well. So that fits right in. So I just actually, I'm a spreadsheet gal too, but journaling's easier for everybody. I don't think we want to put that in a spreadsheet and analyze it.
So journal song lyrics that resonate with you and challenge yourself to grow. Like
Love it.
maybe even pull in our audience question too with the problem solving. Like how can you use that in a solution driven way?
I mean, I do like listen to one of your like favorite songs, and then I like journaling about it, writing how it makes you feel and maybe why, and problem solving. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's a solid little 5 minutes is listen to music and then actually like connect with how and why you feel that way, your emotional side to it.
I love it.
Or if we want to stick to the intellectual, we could try to do, you know, how does this song make me critically think more?
I was
mean,
going to
it's-
say one thing I do a lot is spot the lie. So
Oh.
if you're listening to a lyric, a lot of lyrics actually are telling a lie about how to live well. And you don't know it till you actually analyze what their advice is or what they're actually doing in the song and promoting.
Mm.
Can you give us an example?
Cool.
There's a lot of songs about vengeance that teach you that there's freedom in being vengeful. And I find what's more true in life is there's freedom in being forgiving. So I think that's one really obvious one that comes up a lot.
Well, and I live by the rule that the energy you put out into the world is the energy you receive in return, right? Do unto others as you would have do unto you. Like, and I think your music that you listen to speaks to that. And so if there's vengeful music, you might live in a more vengeful state. And if you listen to more peaceful music, you might live in a more peaceful state.
Right. And I think there's more power in a peaceful frequency and a forgiveness frequency than there is in an anger vengeance frequency. I mean, I think we found that. So that's kind of like that's an analysis in itself. Like, can you analyze what the lyric is telling you, what the song is promoting, and is it true?
Awesome. All right. So I think everything we've told, our daily challenge is going to be listen to a song. Let me read what I wrote. That'll be clearer, hopefully. All right. So we're going to listen to a song, and then we're going to journal about why the artist may have written it and how it makes you feel.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Yeah. It's great.
I like it.
So it's a little intellectual, like what was maybe going through their head? What were they thinking? Were they being political? Were they anti-establishment? Were they just falling in love? Like why they wrote those lyrics, and then like, okay, now that I've heard it, how are my emotions? Am I ready to go find some random person and fall in love? Or am I ready to rally against the government and all that kind of stuff? And then you can kind of take that song and the music and pull it back into yourself and the how and the why.
Yeah.
You guys like that?
We do.
Yeah. It's great.
All right. It's official. Daily challenge. All right. We are done with this episode. We did our task. We shared. We loved. We laughed. And we came up with the daily challenge. Thank you all so much for being guests. I'm going to put you guys backstage and wrap it up. Ooh, that was a bit of a long one. Audience, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit about song lyrics and your intellectual health. Want to thank you again for watching Millionaires Are Made.